Hey, what's up, guys? This is Joe Simonette,
Ronnie Jackson.
Sean Lowe.
Diana Say Chow.
and we are back with another episode of the Invest and Inspire podcast. And so we want to give you guys tips, tricks, and also inspire you on your real estate journey, whatever that may be, wherever you are in your real estate path. And so today we are going to be talking about like our backgrounds, our stories a little bit, what actually got us into real estate, or what got us curious about real estate, and kind of how we got into it, because everybody has a different path. And so I think that's really just kind of good, so you can understand we all took different routes to end up where we are, and we're continuing to evolve as people. So let's start with you, Diana, first. And like, what was your kind of like segue or gateway into real estate?
Yeah, for sure. So I did the traditional route. I went to school, got into nursing, and it took me almost 10 years to finish because I was also raising a family, doing part-time work, etc. And so I realized like living check to check for me was not it. And I also had my awesome husband here that does real estate that inspired me to really dig deep. And yeah, that's pretty much where we started, right? Like we were always into flipping homes and looking into reality TV shows. And one day we were like, we really wanted to start flipping homes. And one thing after another, it landed on our lap and we just went from there.
However, those shows are not how it goes. I'm telling you now, it is not correct at all. Yeah, I think kind of mine was a little different. Like when I was working the traditional route, I didn't graduate or anything. I had to just work a job. And as I was working that job, it was just so taxing on my spirit. Like it just, I noticed every day I'd come home just more and more drained. But I have a very visionary type mindset. So I was always thinking of ways that I can try to just get better at life. And it took a big risk. When I got my real estate license, I literally quit working the day of. Like I was like, that's it, no more working. She got her nursing license, went to work in a hospital. Wow. And I quit working 100%. And I told her, I was like, it's going to take me 2 years probably to get to where I can handle, being a realtor and make enough money. However, the first year I was really successful and, pretty much made more than I was making working. So, that was a pretty quick jump into the game, and we met a lot of investors and people who were doing it differently. And we used that as motivation to start thinking outside of the box and coming up with new ways to make money. And obviously there's a million ways to invest. But, we wanted to start with something. So we made a goal. We were like, our first year, we want to do at least one flip. And of course, towards the middle of the year, we did our first flip. So we just started using that as kind of motivation to do the next thing. And this year we wanted to do one rental this year. However, we did a novation. So, we looked at that as a win. So we did something different this year to make money. And so next year we have new goals that we're going to try to shoot for. But that was like our breakout.
This year we were introduced to creative financing, and that was something that was really heavy on just knowledge, right? We were really interested in learning more about creative financing, and we actually got our first deal. So yeah.
That's awesome. And Sean, what year did you get in the business?
2020.
Oh, okay. So right during
during
COVID and all the craziness.
It was difficult, but honestly, like ever since I got my license, it's been a weird, difficult time. Like, I mean, it started really, really insane with offers, 30 offers on any listing to 100 offers on a listing. I mean, you had to sell your soul to get an offer accepted. I mean, it was really difficult, but I actually was glad I did that because I feel like I got a lot of experience in a short amount of time. And then it led to the change of interest rates that rose up, and then I had to adjust again, which also gave me a lot of knowledge and experience. And obviously being surrounded by all of you guys that motivate and teach, and we're always trying to help each other learn more, it just kept blossoming and getting better
and building in the momentum.
We're still not all the way there yet, but we're working towards it. Like it's always a learning experience. You're never done learning, so we're just learning more and more as we go.
Yeah, no, I think that's so one of my mentors, they had a quote, learn like you're going to live forever. And I think that really what separates, people in general is because like at some point you have to recreate yourself. Like you can't stay stagnant because it's like you're either growing or some people say you're dying.
Yeah, essentially
Right.
that's what it is. That's actually a great quote. It's true. You're always trying to learn something new and better yourself every day.
Yeah.
So I agree.
Awesome. And Ronnie, let's move to you. Like what got you interested and curious, to get in this crazy world of real estate and real estate investing?
Let's go, Ronnie.
Man, so a lot of people don't know this, and I'm just beginning to share. So at 21, I was sentenced to actually 30 years in prison. I ended up serving 23, but when I went in, I was just a high school dropout. I had only completed the 10th grade. And when I went away, I was just a street kid. I sold drugs. I was a gang member. And I had only read one book. But when I went away into prison, I started reading books and, studying, trying to figure out, who I am and what I wanted to do. And I would see these infomercials on TV. And I just started reading real estate books, book after book after book. And I started seeing how I could get out and, still be financially independent. So over the course of while I was away, that was primarily my focus in personal development and growth. And so when I came home, I decided I was coming to a new community. I didn't want to go back to my old roots because I felt like it would be too many temptations there. I came out here to Olympia, and I just know just from being in the street life, like if you want to level up, you got to connect with people that are doing big things. So
100%.
I knew Joe was, I knew Jim Green and Josh Abbey.
Yeah.
So I started reaching out to these guys, and I'm a pretty persistent guy.
You are.
You I kept calling them and demanding the meetings, and I just want to get some tips on how I can be a successful real estate agent. But when I first came home, I found a job at a car dealership. So I did that for a while. I was very successful. And then Joe and I was having conversations over the course of, 2.5, 3 years.
How did you guys meet, by the way? What was the...
So Josh Abbey introduced me to Joe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. I was curious about that.
Yeah, and Josh is... I used to work with Josh because his parents, they started Abbey Realty here in Olympia. Yeah. And so that's kind of actually a segue. Because that's like those guys actually, they were very influential in me getting investing because Tim, Josh's dad, and Josh would always go to the courthouse every Friday and they would be auctioning
for the auctions.
Yeah. And they have a huge rental pool here in town, and they were doing that as well. And then Josh's other brother Matt and then his brother-in-law Chad, they also were in that. And so I came there when I was kind of like, I was still kind of newer, but I was like, that was, I want to say it was 2012. So I came from actually a brokerage that I used to work from up in Kirkland, Washington. And that's kind of how like some of those people that we know that are with our company now, how I kind of know them because we were all with this particular brokerage kind of all around the same time.
Was it like the only brokerage that was around here at the time?
No, so it was pretty much one of the first kind of more like tech brokerages. The owner, he actually was a software engineer, and so he created his own like basically CRM that did lead generation and stuff.
And that's what drew you guys kind of in.
Yeah, so that's what kind of gravitated us to that because like before that I was with my first brokerage here in town that was called Exit Realty, and that was literally like me looking through the yellow pages and stuff like that.
You're showing your age, bro.
Calling people. I'm an old man. But so that those guys, they were very influential, and I saw what they were doing, and it's like, okay, there's more to this real estate thing than just working with buyers and sellers. And like me, I'm very persistent as well, like Ronnie said.
I think that's all of our strengths is how persistent we are,
and curious, right? So then I'm gonna start asking questions and stuff like that. And so then 2014, that's when I actually started first investing. And I remember it was a bank foreclosure that I bought here in Olympia. It's across from the Wilderness neighborhood. And it, like I told Ronnie, like if you're not scared when you buy your first investment property,
I bought my first deal.
there's something wrong with you.
No,
I remember when when I closed on it, and it was like scared as shit. Like, okay, like, did I miss something? Like, freaking, what if something
gonna get my money back?
something wasn't on title, but and so,
man.
so yeah, so I mean,
You got to have that fear, though. That's the healthy fear, but
Yeah.
that's also the thing that we all do is
Yeah.
we push past that fear, and
Yeah.
you have to have that ability to look past the fear and look at, your numbers, that you were correct, and, you believe
Yeah.
in yourself that you dotted all your I's, crossed all your T's, and know that you made a good choice. And that's how I looked at it when we did our first one. I was like, I know it'll sell. And the market shift. This was right when the interest rates increased, when we listed our property, and we were scared. We actually adjusted the price. We went from $599 to $500K. We were still profiting a really good amount.
Mm-hmm.
We just profited a lot less, but we
Yeah.
did this to beat everybody, and luckily
get
we
ahead
did.
of the market.
Yep, way ahead. We like blew everybody out the water, but we still had about $100K profit on it. So we were like, okay, just take $100 off and just list it. And we got 2 offers, 1 waived inspection, and that was the one we went with. And
I remember putting our whole life savings in this
Yeah,
one.
it was
We're like, oh
everything.
my gosh, whatever
Everything.
happens, it's gonna happen.
Sleepless
everything.
nights.
It was
Calculated
nerve-wracking.
risk.
Can't
Yeah.
sleep at
It
nighttime.
was definitely nerve-wracking,
Yeah.
but that's what it is. A lot of people, I hate to say it, won't take that risk, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong if you're not that risky type of person.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe in myself. I believe in her. I believe in the mentors and people that I talk to. And if you believe in that enough, then it overrides that fear, and you just trust the universe that it's going to happen.
Well, I think for me, it was just, like, I understand you buy something at a low price and you sell it for more, but when we were looking at the numbers and how much money that I was going to make,
didn't
it's just
believe
like, I think my first deal went down, like, I closed on Friday and it was under contract Monday, and I was going to make $100,000
For doing
for
doing
doing
your rehab.
nothing.
Yeah, I know. I remember
after
you
it's
were-
been drilled in our head, go to school
Yeah.
to get a good job or go to college, and here I am, just getting out of prison, and I'm making $100,000 on one deal over a weekend.
Was that a
Yeah.
wholesale deal?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Nice.
was a wholesale
That
deal.
my
Was his first
deal.
one.
Yeah.
Our wholesale deal landed on our lap too, and we didn't even
Yeah.
know. We were like,
Yeah.
"What's a wholesale deal?"
But that one actually still, I mean, you don't look back, you don't regret the past, but that one, our first wholesale, I almost feel like I should have took that one. Like, we should have done it because
It was in our same time we put our
Yeah.
whole life savings into that flip, though, so we really didn't have the funds
but
to
there's
even do it.
always a way.
There is. Now that we are more educated,
I know
yes.
now, like, I could have reached out to you, Joe, and been like,
Yeah.
hey, I need a private money lend,
Yeah.
something, because that property ended up making the investor that I gave that deal to $175K.
Oof.
And
And we
I
didn't
made
know.
$10K on the wholesale,
Man.
and I got the
Oh,
list
man.
back. And so that one still bothers me to this day. And I'm just like, and guess how much they put into the property? $17,800.
Oh,
Yeah, but that's our growth, right? Like at the
Yeah,
time, our
yeah,
first year,
yeah.
we did not know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
now what you
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
You
will
don't
kill
know.
you,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it will leave you broke.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
spent many times just studying everything that I could and learning from everybody.
But that actually made a connection out of
Yeah.
it. So me and that investor, and me and her and that investor, we became very good friends with that person. So, is it we lose money or do we gain a contact and a friend?
It's always you learn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's always you
There's
learn.
still
Like
positives.
Yeah.
that's with any. I feel just in life, any type of challenge that any of us face, like you have to figure out like what the gift and what the lesson is in there.
Yep,
Like,
exactly.
Like I think that's where a lot of people they lose sight of that, or they haven't heard that before. It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, Ronnie, he had to learn, and he took a lot of wisdom out of that situation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now you don't get
tell him how
fear
many
anymore.
books you read.
Yeah, how many have you read, Ronnie?
Tell him.
Over 1,200 when I was in there.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
incredible.
Ronnie, you read 12.
Well,
wisdom.
like I said, I hadn't read books. I had only read one book, and I think it was a Wilt Chamberlain book that I had to write book report, essay, whatever, in the 6th grade. So that was the only book. And when I went in prison, I just started, burying myself in the library, actually to get away from the chaos in prison. But I just would search the shelves and pull books out that spoke to me. And then from there, I just started, it was like the best thing that I had discovered. And I used to get so mad because I'd be like, man, how many times did you drive past the library? How many times? And then I would look at on the back of the book to see when it was copywritten. And some of these books would be written in 1910. So I would get mad again and frustrated because I was like, man, this information has always been here, but I didn't know. But I didn't understand the power of reading, and I didn't understand the
well, it also probably gave you something to take your mind off of too while you're in there. I mean, like now you have something that you can do all the time. You're reading, you're feeling more motivated about yourself, because that is a horrible situation to be in, and you have to look at something to give you light while you're in there. So you studying and doing all that probably helped you get through that bad situation.
And then when I realized, like when I discovered real estate, it was just like eye opening. I was like, yeah, this is what I could do, because me coming home working a 9 to 5 was not an option. Like because obviously I didn't have time to save for retirement, and then if I worked a regular 9 to 5, I'd probably be working until I die.
You'd be miserable too.
And so I just was looking for something where I could come back and level up and be able to share something with the guys that were still trapped in that lifestyle. And for me, it was real estate.
Very, very good point. I think all of us also have that. Like, I personally do not like someone telling me what to do. I have a very rebellious spirit. And so like that's why every job I worked, it used to frustrate the hell out of me, because I'd be doing something correct and this person would come and shoulder watch, and it's like, I know what I'm doing, you're not even in here, like don't tell me how to do my job. And so those things used to frustrate me. And even though we still have mentors, see, this is a different thing, but we choose those mentors where a job that boss is already chosen for you, and you're stuck working with that person. So I feel like that's one thing we all have in common. We just don't necessarily like people telling us what to do.
Very selective.
Yes.
Who you
I don't
choose
mind
to be
Joe
in your life.
telling me.
Right.
Like I don't mind that. But it's different. It's because we chose this, and it's for our betterment to go beyond just clock in, clock out.
Well, it's a trust factor.
Exactly,
too.
trust.
I know if Joe tells me something and he is giving me some feedback, I don't take it as he's talking condescending to me.
Oh yeah.
I know that he's coaching me so
exactly
that I can learn and execute better.
So 100.
Yeah, I think really, I think a lot of people just have to be careful about, and this is with dreams, this is with your aspirations, like who you are listening to and how you are qualifying them. Because today, everybody has an opinion. Yeah. But for me, like I need to see your qualifications.
That's a good point.
If I'm going to listen to your opinion.
Right. Very good point.
Because a lot of people, you have to understand, like if you do tell them your dreams, your visions, your aspirations, most people they have insecurities, and they're going to be like, oh no, that's not possible. You shouldn't do this because of X, Y, and Z. And that's what I heard when I left my safe job. And
I bet.
I got into real estate, right? Like, oh man, it's
a horrible idea, Joe. You're going to fail.
It's a fraud.
Or it's like, oh, well, you got to have family in there, because it's a really tough business or whatever. And so it's like a lot of people have a lot of limiting beliefs, and that can be very poisonous, right, to your dream. Well,
that's why we're all very selective of who we keep around us. Like Diana was saying the other day, it's very hard for her to associate with standard people as
normal people, right?
Because she feels like she's bragging, and it's not even bragging. Me, you, Ronnie, we can all have conversations about it, and we don't come off as we're bragging. We're coming about it. Exactly. We're all doing something. Where, like you said, a lot of people maybe feel like, oh, they're doing that and they're just telling us because they're bragging, but we're just excited about doing stuff. Like that's really what it is.
Or people, like when you're around, they'll be like, oh, well, Mr. Moneybags, we don't make as much money as you, and I can't just take off. Or I remember I went to visit my family after 30 years probably, and I just took I didn't pre-book it. I just decided one day I'm leaving, and the plane ticket was $1,000, and everybody's like, "What? You paid $1,000? Wow, that must be nice." But I hate that. I hate that. I do too. I hate that. Like I worked for, what I have now, and So
anybody can make an excuse of that, because I mean, we had a kid at a very young age. I mean, she was 18, I was just turning 20, lived off of welfare.
We've already been through the struggle, so it's like I'd be willing to risk everything because I already lived that life. Like,
exactly.
I'm gonna throw down 3 times harder.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, we don't say like, oh, must be nice. Like, it's easy to say that to you, Joe. Must be nice that you put in 15, 20 years of hard work to get to where you are. Like, it's not must be nice. It's hard work.
Nice.
Or it's lucky. No, it's not luck.
No.
We worked for it.
And I think that's really the biggest thing, like with social media today, is unfortunately people do not see like the constant failures that you have to go through on a daily basis,
100.
rejection, also, you know, your mind, right? Because the thing is, when you're an entrepreneur, like there's things that have to be done every day. It doesn't matter your mood, like you have to get these things done
100.
because you don't have somebody that's paying you a salary or anything. And so it's like you're at war with your mind
every day,
literally every day. And like a lot of people, they don't think that. They just think you're a robot. Like, oh man, this guy doesn't have feelings. This guy doesn't have emotion.
No.
This guy doesn't have problems, or this gal doesn't have problems, right? Where it's like until somebody can like come with you and shadow you for a month, and then they're just like, oh man,
and then they see
this is not what I expected. Like,
exactly.
Like I thought I could be an entrepreneur and work 20 hours a week. It's like
there's no days off. There's no days off. Diana works still as a nurse today. And when she's off, we're dealing with our Yelm, deal that we're working on, or we're, dealing with finding new deals. And there is no day off. And I essentially always say that it's going to be about a 24-hour day, because I'm open every time of the day. Someone texts me at night about a deal or something, I'm usually engaging with them at night, where most people are like, I'm not going to talk until tomorrow. Well, tomorrow you could just miss that deal. I mean, you have to be ready to go all the time.
Yeah, I feel imposter syndrome all the time, but it's like a mindset thing, right? Like, I feel like I have stuff to offer because I'm like a regular person. I did the traditional way. I feel like that's the gap that I could do for the traditional people. Like, it doesn't take like magic for you to make it. Like, it just consistency and like being able to, fight through all of the doubts that you have in your own mind.
Yeah.
I think that probably the biggest thing today that I just see, especially like in the real estate space, is a couple of things. Number one is attention. Mm-hmm. Most people, they get drawn to too many things, and it's like you really have to go deep and you have to master something before you can move on to the next thing, whatever it is, in any space that you're in. And it's also what Diana was touching on, which is the consistency. A lot of people love to start things
and not finish.
But it's like the secret sauce is the consistency and following it through to the end.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so like I say something to myself every time, because it's like my word is my bond with people. And so it's like, they're not hollow words. Like, my words have substance and context. So it's like, don't be a fraud.
Yeah.
Don't be a fraud. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, if you can't do something, if you can't make a commitment with that seller that you're trying to help get out of a financial situation, if you can't buy the deal, or if you can't commit to one of your clients, whatever it is in life, it's like, just let them know that.
Yeah.
Because
be 100 with them.
If you don't, like, I mean, in this world, in our world of real estate here, like, your reputation is going to be everything.
And with social media nowadays, you will get destroyed on social media if you start, lying, essentially. There's so many people who cap nowadays, like, and it's big. It's so big.
What
now.
were we calling it? The capidemic?
Yeah, the capidemic. It's insane, man. And we're not even saying that we're big or anything, but it's just we're honest. And when we meet with people, we don't BS them. We tell them how we can help, and it's up to them if they want to make the decision to work with us. But we're not going to lie to them and say, the good stuff and not go with the bad stuff too. Like, there's still bad things that can happen in this deal, but I'm going to be 100 with you. Here's the breakdown of what we'll walk away with. We like to be completely transparent with people, and I think that's how we all are. We don't bullshit people. Like, we really don't.
Yeah, I think under promising and over delivering, like I just believe in that. Like,
me too.
I'd rather under promise and over deliver you than promise you like the world.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how, like, especially if you're on the retail side in real estate, even in the shifting market, it's like you have to manage those clients' expectations and just be real with them. And the problem is you have to detach yourself from the outcome.
Yep.
A lot of people, especially in the business space, it's like they're attached to the outcome, so they're going to say whatever, whatever it is to try to gain that business, but you're setting yourself up for failure because the failure is inevitable if you're not aware of the conditions of the market and you're not saying, hey, well, this is great, you want to sell it in 30 days, but the average days on market's 255 days, so
and it's Q4, and
that's pretty aggressive.
Yeah, like that's actually a really good point, man. Like you have to be able to tell them everything. Like I did my most recent listing. I mean, we started listing in end of October, and I mean that's leading into then Thanksgiving, then leading into Christmas, and I tried to really tell them like this is going to be a very slow time. Do not get impatient and think that it's the price, because a lot of time right now it's not the price. It's just
Correct.
People aren't looking. They're doing vacation stuff. They're spending a lot of money for Black Friday, running their credit card up high. The debt to income is increasing. So now they have to work to pay that all off. So they're probably going to end up buying in January or February.
Yeah.
So, you just got to be reassuring to these folks that trust in the process, and we're not going to BS you.
Yeah, no, 100%. So let's talk about like what you guys think, any type of channels like offline or online that you think are good resources for people that are like curious about getting into real estate, right? Because we all had different introductions, right? If it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, now obviously YouTube's big.
YouTube is big.
So podcasts are big.
Yeah.
Or even just people that follow certain influencers in the real estate space and Instagram or TikTok or whatever. So, but what are some some outlets that you would recommend to people that have more curiosity about the real estate space, sales or investing? It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I think the first thing was Bigger Pockets. I think I was exposed to that one real quick on YouTube.
I think that was our first one. Actually,
yeah,
it was
and I
Bigger
got
Pockets.
really interested, and then it just kind of led me in a loophole.
Mm-hmm.
And then you did Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
Mm-hmm.
and then your Burr book.
Yeah, Burr was another one, but he's part of Bigger Pockets too, though.
Yeah.
David Green.
Yes,
Mhm.
David Green.
Yeah, he's a part of them too. I always say find a community.
Oh yeah,
Like,
100%.
no matter what it is. Like when my first actual like leap into investing was not in real estate. Mine was starting in stocks, and I started trading stocks with a really good friend named Chase Wilhelm, and he's one of the smartest people I know in the world. The dude is brilliant, but he's very safe, and there's no problem with that. There's really just safe investors. I'm willing to take a little bit more of a risk. So, I'm calculated, but I take a little bit more of a risk.
I think he also limits himself.
Yeah, he does.
It's
He limits.
all in his own
It's sometimes
mind. Yeah.
overthinking can be
Yes.
a problem. Like,
Paralysis by analysis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's great. Yes. That's exactly what it is. But yeah, finding a community. My community for doing stocks first was Chase, and I started talking to him. He taught me everything I knew about it. Then I started talking to other people about stocks, and same thing with real estate. I got into groups, and started going to meetups like Ronnie does, and just meeting as many people as I could and getting around them. I think that's really important, is getting around people. It's going to help you a lot.
Yeah.
Well, the first book that I read that opened my eyes was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then I just ran through all of his books. And just to like, if I study something, I like to go in hard. I like to read it multiple times just so I get a great understanding and can share with people. And then, when I came home, I just went to pretty much every investor meetup that I could go to. I wanted
still
to go
do.
because
You're always there.
Yeah, like for me, when Joe was explaining to me what he was doing, I said, "Hey, if you have a flip going on, take me, because I want to see it from the beginning to all the way to the end, because I needed to visualize it,
Visually see it.
Yeah, and this is so I go to these meetups because I want to hear about other people doing other deals in different cities around Washington. So that's been a big resource for me.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, I would say mine was Rich Dad, Poor Dad too. And then also I read Real Estate Investing for Dummies.
Oh.
Oh yeah, she read that too. Actually.
Yeah. So those were like my first two books that I read that kind of like got me interested and was like, oh man, like there's actually like a lot of potential, and not like you have to do the 9 to 5 route, and that there's actually like there's no ceiling, right? There's no ceiling in real estate. It's really just about
always learning.
Or investing in general.
Yeah, it's just about identifying opportunity. Like I haven't told Ronnie this yet, but the guy. So there was a Port Orchard off market deal, fire damage deal, right? Yeah. And we met this guy from a real estate event that we went to, and he was like, "Hey, there's this fire damage house next to my listing in Port Orchard, like it's in pretty good shape or whatever." And so Ronnie literally chased them down. You want to tell him how you actually found the seller on that one?
Yeah. So Joe, you text me. You sent me the address.
Yeah,
right?
I texted you the address.
So then I looked the address up in PropStream, and then I saw that her mailing address was different from the fire damage address.
Yeah. So she had another property that she was obviously.
So I drove out there and went to her house, knocked on the door. I left my little flyer. I didn't hear anything. But I know that it takes, what's the average? 17 touches to close a deal?
It's like anywhere between 5 and 12. But obviously these are rare circumstances.
Yeah, they're not always going to follow that exact
So
box.
It's probably close to 20.
Well, at any rate, I know that it takes more than one try to lock up a deal. And I figured that was a great deal if I can lock it up. So I just went back, and the second time she answered, and I started talking to her about her property and asked her if I had permission to actually go inside and take a look at it. And I told her I would give her a call after I looked at it. So I called her and had a more in-depth conversation. And then we tentatively made an agreement that I would buy the property for what she still owed on the mortgage. Yeah.
What does she owe? Do you know?
$150.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
No. What's the ARV?
The after repair value is 420.
I would say conservatively
430.
Yeah, conservatively 425.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
margin.
We pad our numbers a lot. I like going back what Joe said, like under promise, over deliver. Well, we do that to ourselves too when we invest. Like we'll say 430, but maybe the house is worth 450, 460. But we'd rather tell ourselves 430, and if we hit 450, nice. But at least we aimed low on what we think it'll be.
Yeah, and to kind of segue, so the same agent called me again today. Because he's like, "Oh, did you guys get that Port Orchard property locked up?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty close." And he said, "Hey, well, I got this other potential deal in Tacoma.
Nice.
It's a property where you can build." He said up to I think it's 7 or 8 multifamily units on it. Oh, wow. And so I guess he has plans for it, this and that. And so I'm like, yeah, send it over.
Nice.
He said the guy's pretty motivated. I mean,
it's a win.
And it's in Tacoma, kind of west of the freeway. So we'll see. But I mean, like us just communicating with
just networking
with the community and networking, and also like I let him know. I was just like, yeah, man, like we'll compensate you, like you know, like we'll
it's a win-win.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Like, and that's the thing, and we'll say this to all agents right now. Like we all buy deals, and so if you have a deal, or it's just something that's foreign that you have not dealt with, like you can reach out to any of us, and it doesn't matter where you're at in the U.S. Like,
no, it doesn't.
We're not people that have a scarcity mindset, so we're very abundant. So like, you're not gonna have to worry about any of us like trying to snake you for a deal, because there's more deals out here than anybody could handle.
And then also, I mean, money is not the driving factor really for I think all of us. Where it's more of just trying to figure out a way to do better and do more and help people along the way. So I mean, money is obviously, we need money to survive, but it's not really the main driving factor. It's also experiencing it. Like Ronnie, he loves to watch the whole process of it. So,
but in the process for me, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's like I went on this, I think it's a scavenger hunt in Tacoma, where you have to go around and find these different little spots. And for me, it's like I'm going on a scavenger
hunt.
Like I love trying to find the people and then connecting with them. But I didn't tell you. So this is from social media. You know, I didn't want to post my deals or anything because I was like, who am I? You know, there's people. Joe's been in the industry for 20 years, right? Like, who am I to get on social media and start talking about real estate? But because of that, I just got 2 recent deals. One of my listings right now, and then a friend reached out to me from high school.
Nice.
And she said her dad's properties. He had 2 rental properties, and in both units, the tenants were not taking care of the properties. So they have to sell one in order to keep another. So I'm actually going to look at that property, and it's in Port Orchard.
Nice.
It's right where my other properties at.
Love it.
That's great.
That's wild.
But that's why you have to
Yeah.
put yourself out there, though.
Yeah.
Like,
Dude.
seriously, I
Yeah.
tell her that a lot before,
Yeah.
and now she's more open to it. But she didn't feel like she knew enough or was,
Like, who am I? Like
yeah.
what he was saying.
But
like, I
no,
get it.
people
It's
look at
always-
us and what we're doing, and they're like, man, that's really interesting. And, and people reach out to us all the time because of that, because we put ourselves out there. If
Yeah.
you don't, people don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's just about just sharing your knowledge and your story and just letting people know like there's no specialty, like anybody can do this.
Really.
Yeah.
Right?
Really.
Like there's no specialty in this. It's like we're not special. It's
We're
just
not
like
geniuses or anything like that. We're just persistent. Really, that's what it is. We're just persistent.
And have goals and dreams
Ah.
and people who do the same thing. It's,
Yeah. Ambition. We have,
And everything falls into place after that.
yeah,
Yeah.
just things
Yeah.
that we need to do.
yeah, that's kind of funny that one's in Port Orchard.
Yeah.
Port Orchard too.
Have any of you read Atomic Habits?
I have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Atomic Habits is a
Top
great
3
one.
books.
Atomic Habits is
Ooh,
definitely.
my top 3 books. I would say As a Man Thinketh for sure, and then there's a book called Flow. I can't pronounce his last name. It's like 17 letters long.
Mm.
And the next one, I would say Robert Greene Mastery.
I haven't read that one yet.
Yeah.
I need to read that
That's
one.
Wow,
That
I have
book
not
is
read.
dope.
I'll
Yeah.
have to put that.
Let's
that
go
on
look in the
list.
library.
I actually have my Audible up right
Yeah.
here. I need to look and see because I have one that I'm still working on, but it's one I highly suggest. Richest Man in Babylon.
Yep.
Yeah,
That was
I read that one.
That was a great book. It was just
Yeah.
really cool to
Yeah.
like understand like his mindset,
Yeah.
all the way through. That was a great book. Definitely suggest it. And obviously Atomic Habits was my other favorite. And then the Burr one was just opening my eyes into more creative financing. So that's why
Yeah.
I was like, Burr was one of my favorites. But they're all good. They all provide something
Yeah.
of value.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Relentless by Tim Grover. Tim Grover was Michael Jordan's personal trainer,
I think you told me about
Yeah.
that
and
book. I haven't
so
read
like
that
it
one
gives
yet.
you a totally different inside view of like what flow state and everything
Yeah.
means.
Mhm.
And like he was able to witness Michael Jordan as the only person in the NBA to be in that type of state constantly.
He was.
And so yeah, that's an amazing book if you haven't read Tim Grover's books. And it's also cool because he worked with other top athletes like
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, and so it's like there's certain aspects about all those people that are at such a high level
Yeah.
and in how they think and how they get their body and their mind in that certain
Yeah.
flow state where like time literally slows down.
Those guys are all like obviously the best of the best, and
Yeah.
they're that for a
Yeah.
reason. I mean,
Yeah.
they all are probably very similar in what they do. I mean, Kobe always said he was like the last in the gym practicing all the time, first in the gym, and I'm assuming Michael Jordan was probably the same way. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, he talked a lot about Kobe in that book too, and it's like Kobe would do his first session at 4 a.m. in the morning,
Yep.
and then he would go back home, and then he'd do a afternoon session at the gym, and then he would do an evening session,
Yep.
and that was like
Yeah.
pretty much all the time. And like it was kind of crazy because there were some parts in that book like where they would be warming up and there'd be another team there, and like the team would get in and Kobe's already been there for hours, but he would just mentally stay there until after the last person on the other team left,
just to be like, I'm
just-
still
just-
here.
just
to
the
be in your
mental-
head.
just the
Yeah.
mental edge.
Yeah.
That's smart.
And
Yeah.
and even
Yeah.
like some players even came up to him and asked him that.
Yeah.
They're just like, man,
That's smart.
He's
That's mental warfare.
he's different.
Yeah, he is. He's way
Um,
different.
And so yeah, that was a pretty cool book. So
But from reading that book, that is just not for athletes.
No,
Like
it's not.
we all could tap into that flow mentality.
Yeah. It can work for anything.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's not just for that.
It's just really immersing yourself into the experience.
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's harder for people today because people want to be so connected with social media, right? Because or just
Yeah.
your phone or what technology, because it's always there, and so it's kind of like you have to disconnect at some point and kind of like reset yourself.
Well, you also said it's like the instant gratification folks nowadays. Like social media has ruined the way of just time. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care if it's going to take me 10 years, 15 years to get to where I need to be, as long as I'm still doing it all the time.
Yeah.
The process itself is what's pretty and beautiful, and the ups and downs, the lows, highs, everything like that is very important to me. So I used to be on that, like, I want to get rich quick, but there is no get rich quick. It doesn't happen that way. Or get successful quick, or get good at something quick. You have to put in time. You have to suck at something to get good at something. And
Yeah.
that's the way it is. And there's no getting around it. I think you told me once, it's like a 0.00001 chance of someone getting rich quick. It's so low. I mean,
It's like if you look at the lotto winners and then you look at the percentage of them that actually lose everything.
Oh yeah, it's
al-
almost all of them.
It's almost 100% because the thing that you have to understand, or this is just with anybody, it's like, it's not rich because you actually have money.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you have to actually be rich with knowledge, rich with health, and all of these things if you want that thing that's called money, which we all need to survive. But it's like, and that's why those people always go broke, because it's like,
Exactly. They haven't built up the knowledge bases.
Or just to know how to manage it.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
exactly. This is all very important to keep your money and still earn your money.
Yeah.
Ronnie, have you watched Undercover Billionaire?
I have.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's a perfect example.
Yeah.
You take a billionaire's money away,
Yeah.
either season, both the seasons,
You
they
can
still
do it
figure out a
again.
way to
Yeah.
make money. And I could probably say the same for you. If we took away all your money right now, you'd probably still figure out a way to do it and get it all
I
back.
think for all of us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we all understand wholesale. And
Exactly.
when I'm talking to people, I try to explain, hey, you don't need money.
None.
Like, you
Nothing.
do not need money.
Yeah.
They
I'm
look
not-
at you like, what?
yeah,
You're a
I'm-
fraud. You're doing
Yeah,
No.
that's a
some
pyramid
weird
don't.
stuff.
scheme or something.
Yeah.
Like, I used to, when I first came home, I used to worry about money and, can I be successful out here?
Without
But-
money.
Yeah, but once, I learned everything, well, not everything, but once I learned how to invest in real estate, and I realized that you don't need money.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care if you drop me off in the middle of nowhere.
I'm gonna figure it out.
I'm going to lock up a deal. I'll find a deal.
There's always
Yeah.
a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's probably a powerful point that a lot of people need to know. And it's like, really, it's the skills that you actually develop. Like, yeah, you can lose it. I could lose it all. Any of us could lose it all. But it's those skills that actually
We don't lose.
that actually you don't lose, and that's
Yep.
what actually generates like whatever type of value and wealth. And that's what somebody says this. It's like whatever you're compensated is your direct ability and your value in the marketplace.
Yep.
So it's an exchange. Like, you're solving a problem and you're getting compensated X amount to solve that problem. And so that's like all it is. And so like when you start understanding that, then you're like, oh, well, I got to continue to develop my skills. Cause like Ronnie said, yeah, you don't need money. Like now we're talking about, structuring big,
Multifamily.
big deals,
multifamilies, big
50
deals.
or 100,
Yeah.
100 units. And like, we know how to set all that up.
Yep.
And so it's like, we know how to underwrite the deal. We know
Yep.
how to find the deal. And there's plenty of people that might just have, funds that they want to get into real estate, but that process of doing all that, it's
just
not
overwhelming.
it's
Yeah.
not easy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so and they can have a secured investment in something that's real and tangible, where they can get a great return on it instead
Yep.
of living
Having
with
your
the
money in the bank.
Yep.
or the stock
Yeah.
market,
Or
right?
the
The
stock
ups
market.
and
The
downs.
ups and downs, yeah.
Isn't there? There's two different versions of investing that people always bring up. It's the Dave Ramsey and the.
We're like, no.
Isn't it? His
Well,
is,
Well, I mean, yeah, his
Yeah,
is
method's different.
his method is basically debt free, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, there
because
isn't. It's two different routes. I don't agree with his route.
I
though.
definitely do.
but we
Robert
have to
Kiyosaki is how I kind of go.
we have to
towards
understand
good
that,
debt.
like, and this is something that I always explain to people, because it depends on where you are. If you're a 9-to-5 person
Yeah.
versus an entrepreneur,
Exactly,
Because,
they can still
like,
invest.
they can invest in, but also some person's method, like a Dave Ramsey, might be more applicable. But if you're an entrepreneur, it's probably not going to be as much applicable for you, because we don't mind acquiring debt as long as we're getting cash flow and we're
Exactly.
getting yield and we're getting a certain certain return on it. So there's good debt and there's bad debt.
Right.
That's why I always bring up those two. I mean, Robert Kiyosaki and Dave Ramsey, they're completely different spectrums.
Well, when you said there's good debt and bad debt, explain that to someone who might not understand.
What does that mean, Joe? Good debt, bad debt.
So we have appreciating assets, things like real estate, gold, any type of commodities. And this can also be commodities like oil. It could be wheat. It could be farmland. And then you have depreciating assets, things like cars, even the clothes you wear, the shoes you wear,
Rolexes.
Well,
but those kind of increase.
Those kind of increase in value. But so you have appreciating assets, and then you have depreciating assets. Things like obviously credit card debt and stuff like that. And so college debt, that's kind of debatable right now, just because with the emergence of the internet, I mean, it's kind of debatable. Most people can self-educate now if they want, but
they can.
There's kind of that old paradigm that's kind of being disrupted slowly. But so, and that's what people really need to know, and that's why, like, good debt and bad debt, and you have to be careful who you're listening to, and it has to align with, like, are you a 9-to-5 or are you an entrepreneur, right? Because Grant Cardone says, don't buy a house, right?
Yeah, he does.
But he's an entrepreneur, and so he's saying that
to the entrepreneur,
like, hey, put your money in your business and your personal development first before buying a house. But we know that the overwhelming majority of wealth for average Americans in the U.S. comes from buying a house.
Yeah, it's hard to do that if you don't have money, like what he was saying.
So, but also, you have to understand is a lot of people, like, once they buy a house, they don't know how to actually leverage their equity. So that becomes what we call dead money. Because it's just sitting there
for years.
Sitting there, and so they don't know how to do home equity lines of credit or just a HELOC loan to actually use that money and to continue to actually buy more real estate and leverage that for more passive income. So good debt and bad debt, I mean, we could talk about that a lot, but I mean, really you should Google it. You should also self-educate on it, because it's really important. And the thing with real estate, and this is what I always say, it's like, it's not get rich or get wealthy quickly. It's get wealthy for certain, where you buy assets and they're going to appreciate over time regardless. And so that's probably the most scariest thing that I see today with where rates are, and even in our market, is like, if a lot of people don't get into real estate soon here in our local market, some of them are going to be priced out forever.
And that's why he said local, by the way, is because Washington's one of those weird states that I don't see us dropping anytime soon compared to other states. Like California, Washington, New York-ish, Florida, maybe even Texas. Like a lot of these states that are bringing lots of people, they're not going to depreciate the way that other states are, and they're probably going to appreciate. So you're going to continue to be fighting to buy a house if you don't get in now, or as soon as you're possible to do it.
Yeah, because I mean, I want to say in the last 5 years now, prices here have almost doubled. Here in just our state alone.
And they projected another 4% increase.
We have a strong economy.
We do.
Base, though. We have Amazon.
We have tech giants
Microsoft,
here.
Boeing.
Yep.
And it holds our economy up.
It does.
Economy up pretty well.
Amazon's even really big here. I mean, we got so many different. I heard Nintendo's here. Like they even have Nintendo up here. So there's just so many companies that are just providing jobs and security. So unlike other states that may not have that, they're gonna obviously keep dropping in prices.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what we saw in 2008, like as far as like when the housing crisis and crash happened, like some economies that weren't diversified around the country, like let's take Las Vegas, for example. Everything's built off of tourism there,
100,
right?
Yep.
And so when that happened, like,
no one was going to town.
Nobody was going there. So I mean, 60% pullback in prices, it's going to happen because it's not stabilized economy. It's so dependent on that tourism, Whereas you have different economies that aren't, like Texas, that obviously they have a lot of oil and stuff down there, and they have a lot of other things, like a lot of actually Fortune 500 companies that are relocating from places like California.
They're going to
for their
Texas.
Headquarters. They're going there just because of the business.
How did Washington do during that change? You were there.
We had like we had like a 40% pullback. So we had a good pullback, but it wasn't it wasn't like Florida, California, or Vegas, where some of those areas were 60 or 70%. So I mean, that's the thing. It's like we've always been kind of like, we never go too crazy high or too crazy low. We're just kind of like right here. Obviously, Seattle's a whole different animal, but I mean, really my fear is, and this is kind of crappy, is like prices are going to continue to go up, and right now buyers that can get in the market, this is the time, because the problem is the herd mentality. Everybody thinks the same, and right now what's the conversation? I'm gonna wait till rates go down.
Wait till the crash, or wait till prices drop, and they don't.
And so rates go down, everybody's going to jump in the market, but we don't have the inventory here, especially in Western Washington, because we don't have enough buildable land.
No, we don't. They're putting regulations on them too, like in Gig Harbor. I guess they're limiting new builds in Gig Harbor now, so that's going to appreciate those houses so much more now, because now there's limited amount of land that's going to be sold for anything to be built. So it's getting bad.
Yeah, I mean, I would not be shocked if we see rates pull back to 6 or 5.5%.
How much has rates dropped from, let's just say, a month and a half ago?
We're almost a point. We're almost a point down. But once you see like that 6, 5.5, like, you're going to see multiple offers again. And unfortunately, because people are like, well, you know, rates are too high. But the problem is, then for the average borrower, you're going to be then overbidding $20,000 or $30,000 over a house,
no
again,
equity,
waiving contingencies, because like we don't have the inventory even in this market. I was just at a listing appointment today, and from last year we were at 1.6 months here in a specific part of Olympia, where today we're at 2 months. That's still an extreme seller's market, and this is with rates that have been the highest in 23 years. So,
and I honestly think that this is how I look at it. I had someone who bought in 2021, 2022, and they went way over the valuation of their house. They ran into a situation where they have to sell the house with not even a year later. It was like 9 months later, and they asked me to help them in that situation to sell their house, and they were in a place where I could not help them. And that house has been moved through probably 5 different realtors now trying to sell this house. And that's what can happen when you're in a market where you're overbidding everybody. At least in this market, you know you're getting the good valuation for your house. You have a higher interest rate, but your valuation is still higher. VA, FHA, they don't have a lot of money into their house. So if you're zero equity in and things change, you sell your house, you don't have any room.
Well, you could help them if you did a lease option.
We tried that. No one wanted it. No one wanted it. And multiple agents tried. No one wants it because he's over, I'd probably say like 50, 60,000.
Yeah. And he has no equity in the property.
Nothing.
No.
And he can't. I don't even know how he's going to pay the realtors. Like, it was that bad.
No, it was a pretty bad situation.
Yeah.
But I mean, some people you just can't help because they don't want to listen or take heed to your advice, and you're just like, oh well, if I can't help them, like, I don't think anybody else is gonna be able to help
this specific client. I showed him probably 20 houses, and he ended up kind of arguing with my past lender, and he went and bought something on off market, and he didn't use me, and he hits me up like a week after. He goes, hey, I just letting you know I bought a house off market through my friend's neighbor. And I was like, okay. And I was like, no worries, I wasn't hard feeling on it. And then he hits me up and he tells me, hey, by the way, I need to sell this now. And he's like, I didn't do an inspection when I bought the house. And he was like, please help me. And I was like, well, if you would have talked to me in the first place, I would have told you not to buy that property because you were way over. I would have told you to get an inspection. He didn't have no agent representing him either.
Oh, wow.
So it was the listing agent that represented him.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, it was just all around bad situation. But this is where, you need to conversate and listen to the people that are in the game. If you're not involved in the game, you don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know that. This is what we do, and this is our jobs. This is our careers, our lives. We do this full time every day. We're always looking at market trends. We're always looking at houses that come on. We're looking at the ones that sell, the pendings, the expireds. We're looking at all of that. So Let's use us. That's what we're here for.
100%. So do you guys have any kind of, let's kind of wrap it up now, but do you guys have any type of last parting advice that you would give for somebody, again, that's looking to get into the real estate field, any sides of investing, agent, whatever, any type of advice?
I just always say reach out to someone that's doing it.
Yep.
Don't be scared to talk to someone that's doing more than you, because I have personally found that everybody who's doing better than me is completely down to teach you if you really want it.
Yeah.
You know, if they're not going to waste their time on you if you don't take the initiative to do things. They'll give you the playbook, but it's your choice to use the playbook, and don't be scared to ask.
No, that's good advice. Ronnie?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say the same thing, but what I will say is you're going to get challenged. If you have a weak heart, stay at your 9 to 5 because this real estate space will challenge you. But if you can dig deep and get through some of the dark, slow times and stick with it, then you will be rewarded.
Yeah,
So just stay persistent.
Definitely. Just don't limit yourself. I think that's the biggest thing when you think you can't do it or you get scared. Just don't limit yourself. Find people who do it.
No, that's good advice too. I would say don't buy any more courses.
No, stop.
Don't buy any more courses. Everything you guys need is in books, like what Ronnie was saying.
Yeah.
I haven't.
There's
paid for
still
one
libraries
course.
today. Believe it or not,
Yes.
there's still
And
libraries.
it's free.
It's all for YouTube
and it's
all
free.
that.
Networking too
Yes,
is
networking.
free.
I haven't
Yeah.
paid for one course ever.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I bought books and I listened to podcasts and I talked to people.
Oh my gosh, a powerful thing too. Facebook groups.
Facebook groups,
That,
yes.
There's massive amounts of groups that you can join for free, you guys, and then you
Yes.
can network with the people who do it every day.
On one last note, there was this gal who came to my open house, the one that I told you that was like asking about Ronnie. She told me she paid for probably 6 or 7 courses over the last
wow.
year, and each one was anywhere from $4,000 to
Oh.
$12,000. And she said that she keeps bouncing around. And I told her, I was like, you know, fine point yourself. You know, if you pay for a course, there's nothing wrong with that, but don't buy another course. Stick to that course.
Yeah.
Ride that out, because now you're just jumping around, and that, like you were saying at the beginning, you're just going to keep bouncing around to a million things. You're never going to get good at something. So stick to it. Ride it out.
Yeah. No. Well, I think that is it for today. We'll wrap it up, and we hope you guys got some value out of that, and we will catch you next time on the Invest and Inspire podcast.
Thanks,
Peace.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
See you next time.